best, but the views, they are amazing. Amazing.
It's a 13 for y'all. 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 It's a 13
Thank everybody again tuning into this live Juneteenth 2020 event. We are the 13th floor. We've been going for a little over 2 hours now, and I can't express how happy I am to see how many people we got on live. Looking forward to everybody who gets a chance to watch in the rewind. But right now, I'm gonna swing it over to my guy Art, Mr. Faison. Got one more segment. You guys mind.
Welcome everybody to the financial section of our wonderful Juneteenth celebration. Today we're going to talk. You guys can see my power players here. They're about to change the game and help us understand how to make our black dollar grow stronger. We're focusing on growth and driving that black dollar. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first panelist on here. We have Shanell del Zegato. She is a former executive at Dodge IG. She is a former corporate executive at A&N First Data Corporation. She served as a public accountant and experience at Deloitte Anderson and PCW, and is currently the regional head of internal audits and corporate governance for Caribbean and Latin America, a region of North America. And on top of all that, she is a graduate of the University of Miami. She's a master's at FIU. She's a certified CPA. She grew up in South Florida and somehow finds time to be an awesome mother to two awesome children with some Bahamian backgrounds. So I want to welcome you guys all to Shanell del Zegato.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
And as you can see, we have our other brother on the other side. We have Mr. Asgar Ali, currently serving as Vice President and COO, overseeing data remediation efforts impacting the CSO reference to data infrastructure, as well as coordinating with the Division of Control Risk Office to fulfill regular data requests. He's currently working at Deutsche Bank and then change management before that at Citibank, and worked his career at Lehman Brothers when he first started doing structural equity trading. He's a graduate at the University of Miami, former president of the New York City Alumni Association, and is here with us. And on top of that, an awesome father is going to celebrate Father's Day to two amazing children. And while all of that's going on, he has the ability to be an athlete, to potentially have 2 marathons under his belt. You guys all welcome Asgar to the event.
And by the way, just to clear that up, Arthur.
Yes.
That was 2 potential marathons, both of which look like they'll get canceled. The first one being Sandy, and the next one being this quarantine marathon, which I'll run in my living room.
That's all right. It's all about getting those miles in. Get them in however you may. That's awesome.
I have a half marathon under my belt, Asgar. So all I have to say is I hope you're getting your practice in while we're quarantining.
Trying.
Challenge. I hear challenges. So today we listen. We got a big group going on now. We got a lot to talk about. I'm going to start us off with, as we celebrate Juneteenth, kind of rewinding us back to June 1st, 1921, talking about Black Wall Street, talking about Tulsa. This is obviously the mecca of Black wealth, Black millionaireship through this process. And as we go deeper into that, we're going to work our way into understanding how we can get back there. But we'll start with the kind of how we get there ourselves, kind of go through their process. So before we get started, I just kind of want to say we're talking about self and individual awareness. So let's dig deeper into how we can work on ourselves to ensure that we we purposely spread the knowledge. So I'll throw it over to Shanell. Please give us any kind of update, what you want to do, and how can we start this process to ensure that we ourselves and our community can grow well.
I think one step as an individual that you could take to ensure that you grow well is to have a formalized education after high school. You see, all of us here who've been on this panel graduated from the University of Miami. So that's the first step, because we have to ensure our income. We have to, ensure that we're going to have income coming from somewhere. So if college isn't for everyone, so if college isn't for you, I would also say try a trade. If you want to be a mechanic, or if you want to be a chef. So anything like that, I think is the first step. Also, once you do that, you could also provide resources to the community. So say, for instance, I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. Some people might not be able to afford to pay to get their taxes done. So I can go into the community and offer my services and help people prepare their tax returns every year.
Awesome. So before we go deeper into the process, I want to dig a little bit more on those who can't make it to formal education can work on trades, and how starting off working for a trade is actually a way to build wealth as you get to own your own business. So let's talk about how that self-inflection, because some people think that being a plumber is not a luxurious life, but the cost up front of college, after college, grad school, so forth, you build all that into that cost factor of being a plumber versus being an accountant versus being an executive. That weight kind of covers itself. So how can we discuss that? How can we ensure that, even though it's not for everyone, you can choose the right path?
Well, it's not for everyone, but you mentioned a plumber. Plumbers are expensive, right? My plumber is Black and he charges $75 an hour. So I think, that's a pretty good living. And so if you take the path of going to college and having a college formal education, you could also do what you said, like say, for instance, I've worked in public accounting most of my career, but maybe at this point I might want to start my own business. So with that, I could also, mentor and, have kids who are younger come in and work for me. And so that's another thing that you could do. You can either start your own business at some point and, build a book of clients and, help you build your wealth that way.
So I think you brought up a great point, Shanell. In order for us to really move forward, the first thing that we need to do is learn how to invest, right? And when we're first getting into that realm of thinking, which is already progressive for Black people historically, right? We need to understand that investing does not mean putting money into something. Investing means that you are willing to dedicate yourself into whatever your passion and your direction might be. So first and foremost, we need to learn how to invest in ourselves. We need to learn, and Shanell, perfect example, invest in our community. Find your Black plumbers, find your Black electricians, find those people that do those services that you need on a daily basis, but find those people that reflect our ideals, reflect our struggles, and who are also trying to get ahead, right? It's a way that we can inject money into our ecosystem and in turn have it work for us, right? Because the minute we start to, embrace our own people, they're gonna in return show that love back to you, right? And
right.
What's given is gotten, kind of thing. So I think it's important that we kind of get away from the mentality that in order to invest, I have to have financial means, which, that's a different type of investing, and we'll get into that later. But first and foremost, we need to give ourselves that toolkit that we can go off into the world and be successful in whatever we're doing, whether that's being a tradesman or whatever it might be. Education is your direction, perfect, go for it. But we need to learn to look inward first.
Now, Asgar, I want to we're here at this point now, and everyone is looking to see, okay, we're now at the executive level. We understand that process, but let's rewind back at time. Tell us how we got here. Tell us the story, your story, to get you where you are, because again, we have to see ourselves in that position. So tell us how you got here.
I mean, well, you brought up a good starting point, 1921, right? So even before I got here, let's talk about our grandparents and those before us. They have been inflicted with, and we continue to see the remnants of the times of slavery, right? First and foremost. There are countless economic measures, countless legislative acts that are done with the specific intent of keeping us at a certain economic level. They are done with the specific intent of restricting our ability to growth and restricting our ability, or mostly, to leave our financial legacy to our next generation. So I've been fortunate. I think our generation is fortunate enough now to be probably statistically the first generation that will have the opportunity to have some sort of financial legacy left from their parents, right? And so we have to recognize that in and of itself makes us our ancestors' wildest dreams.
There you go.
And so when we look back to a time of 1921, where it was essentially the Black Renaissance that was just in a flash taken away from us, and now we look forward to still dealing with all of the things that we're dealing with, just barely coming out of the shadows of redlining and all sorts of a number of policies that are directed towards restricting our access to finance. We are leaps and bounds ahead of where our parents and grandparents, our ancestors, were at their absolute best, right? So knowing that, I think that brings us into that situation. All right, so what do we do with it? What do we do with it? And I think you brought up in our earlier discussions the fact that money within the Black community lasts what was it, minutes, seconds?
It lasts exactly 6 minutes. We'll get into that deeper too. I got a whole breakdown for that process, but yes.
Right.
And you can 6 hours.
6 hours, you're right. Sorry, 6 hours.
Okay. So that being said, we need to learn how to control it. We need to learn how to nurture it. Just like, we nurture relationships in our life, money needs to be a relationship that we are very intimate with. And it needs to be something that we study just as much as we study any other trade, because not knowing money will put you at a disadvantage no matter what you're doing. You're not going to be able to continue that trade, continue that passion, if you don't have a firm understanding of money and managing that.
I like how you put that, Asgar. You have to have a relationship with money. And I also think that in that you have to be willing to talk about it. Yes. A lot of times in our families, Black families, we don't like to talk about finances and money. So that's another thing that I think we should do. We'll touch on that a little bit later, but I like how you put it, that you have to have an intimate relationship with it.
Well, I think we can jump right into that. Why push it off? Everyone decided to hear about the money aspect. Before we move forward, though, we talked about just Black-owned businesses and kind of supporting your own. There's 2 apps. I want to make sure everyone knows this. There's a Black Wall Street app. If you don't have that, you can download that. It just lets you know what's going on in all the communities you're in. And then there's blackownedbc.com that has that. So if you're in DC directly, you have those options for you. And there's many more out there. I started researching, and I can give you 50 different lists, but those are the 2 that really stood out to me. I wanted to share. But as you go into the family aspect, we talk about passing the will. We talk about for written wills or for the insurance policies. How important that is.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Might be an airplane just passing. So I'll say that again. So we have the importance of a written will, and the importance of insurance policies, something that are often overlooked in the Black community. How can you talk about that now as we go forward?
Sean, you wanna take that? I can.
I couldn't hear. I'm sorry.
So Art was asking about the importance of a written will and a life insurance policy. So I'll jump in with that, and I'll tell you right now, Art, that was one of the first discussions that I had with my wife after we got married, and I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because I was like, wait a minute, this is still very new, and I'm still young.
Yes.
But that's the point, that you are never too young to have an insurance policy, and here's
And actually, Asgar,
here's my insurance
the
policy.
younger, the better.
Yes.
The younger you are, the better.
Right, exactly. So that's the other thing. The younger you are, the healthier you are, the lower your insurance premium in theory, right? The importance of an insurance policy, plain and simple, is because I want to make sure that I leave this one a legacy no matter what happens to me. As she cuts herself with the scissors.
That is very important. And there's different types. So you have your whole life, you have your term lives. You have to find the one that works best for you, but it's important that you have something, because now's the time, if you were to, God forbid, pass or anything, how are you making sure your family's taken care of? You don't want to have them start back at zero. And that is the purpose, and the whole purpose of insurance is to ensure that you don't make your family start back at zero. So Shanell, tell me about what you've done, how you work through this process of making sure your family is well ready for you in the future, how you're passing down your generational wealth to your family.
So right now I have a rental property, which was actually my first property I purchased when I was 26 years old. I stayed in that property for about 10 years, actually in Miami Gardens. And so when I moved out of that property into a larger home after I had my kids, I maintained that property, and I use it as a rental property. And what I try to do, and that's some passive income that I have coming in, and it also provides tax benefits. So these are things that we have to think about when we're trying to invest in real estate. That could be a whole nother session about the advantages of having real estate and how it contributes to generational wealth. But with that property, I try to have tenants who are young mothers who actually work. And, it's kind of like I don't charge the rate that I could. It's not like, I'm renting it cheap, or dirt cheap, but I don't overdo it. I make my money, but I also allow them time or the opportunity to save their money as well. So I actually had one tenant who was able to, stay in my property and save up and then work towards buying her own property. So with having that property, I talk to my kids when I go and talk to the tenants and collect money. I take them, I talk to them about it so they could understand that we lived here before when you were much younger. This is our property. And so when I'm long gone, I'm going to leave this to you guys, and I want you to keep it in the family. And another thing that I have written down in my notes is don't sell grandma's house. Because a lot of us, we have our grandparents who passed away and they worked hard for properties, and the properties are probably paid off. But a lot of people, they sell those properties to make, a couple of $100,000, and, they probably don't use it to invest it in another property when they could, pay the little taxes off and rent that property out and use the profits they get from that to invest in another property. Maybe it's in an area that they don't want to live in. So they could rent that out to someone else and maybe buy a multi-family unit where they could live in one unit and rent out the other unit. So they don't even have to pull money out of their pocket. They could, use the money from the other property's income to pay off, the mortgage for that multi-family property. So that's another thing that I've done, and I talk to my kids about, and as well as the written wills. We talked about that. It's very important to have the wills written down, because unfortunately I've had plenty of situations where I've had family members to pass along and they have, maybe insurance or investment property or something, but we don't have the documentation. So in that is those things are in probate for multiple years. So the time that it's in probate or in the court's hands, that's time that we're losing out on the money that we could be getting from, those investments or, those capital assets or whatever. So those are a few things that I've done.
Now I want to pass it over to Asgar. So you're living in Wall Street. You're seeing this process. What are some of the things that we are missing out on, just as a Black community that we don't see because we're not living there? What can we bring in and say, hey, these are great things you should look into? Real estate is obviously one. We can go on for months and months talking about real estate because it's a very lucrative long-term goal. What are some of the things you're seeing that the community can start to look into?
So first and foremost, just very quickly on the whole, on the insurance policies. I got my insurance policy because an alumni reached out to me and said, hey, do you have one? And I said, nope, you're a hurricane, so I want to talk to you. So let's talk. So I kept that in the family. Secondly, I do want to preface, I will get into kind of my own thoughts, but I do want to preface that I'm not a QIB, a qualified institutional buyer, or a registered investment advisor. So these are just my thoughts and my suggestions based on what I'm seeing, what I've done personally, and in discussions that we've had with our own Black Wall Street committees. What's out there that we're not taking advantage of that we need to? Firstly, if we're not in the real estate market, get in. It's high. It is very much a seller's market right now, but we need to change. Again, we need to change our attitude, right? We're not buying real estate to buy and flip in 5 years. We're buying real estate so that our kids have something 30 years from now. We're buying real estate so that we have a roof over our head that is secure. And most importantly, we're buying real estate so that we have a brick and mortar bank. That adage still holds up, right? And secondly, the interest rates that we're seeing right now, we're never going to see again. What we're seeing right now, especially for first-time home buyers that can qualify for an FHA loan, you're almost looking at below 3% interest. Now, granted, your principal is going to be higher, but again, with the mentality that you're going to keep this thing, you're going to rent it out at some point if your family expands or your situation changes. Location. You always hear it. Stay within that realm. Stay within your means when you're looking at this investment, and get in. As Shanell mentioned before, a home is probably going to be your biggest tax deduction. Although the tax laws have changed dramatically, there's still benefits to owning a home. So to the extent that you're in that middle range, which a lot of us, I think I'll always complain of having too much money but not enough money.
Yeah.
And so a home is a great starting point to help you defer those taxes or minimize that tax liability. Secondly, obviously in the shorter term, because you're not just going to jump into that, right? We need to make sure that we position ourselves the best way possible in the eyes of any lender, right? So in order to take advantage of these historic low tax rates, we need to make sure that our credit is in line, which again, historically, they've always pinned us, dinged us for our credit for various reasons. They just find some reason. And just on a general personal wealth aspect, if you have debt right now, find ways to consolidate it, right? Because that will free you up significantly to do these other things. It'll free you up to then look into the greater stock market, right? Right now, we're seeing this massive, what they call a melt up in the equity markets, which is a result of all this fiscal policy that's going on, despite the fact that revenues might be down. There's just a bunch of money flooding the market. Now, I'm not projecting what's going to happen in the next 6 to 18 months, because that you may as well just go to Vegas and roll the dice at this point. To be quite frank, because the world is near on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yes.
But that being said, the blue chips, if you were invested in the blue chips in 2008, the blue chips are all of your top Fortune 500 companies, right? If you would have invested in those companies in 2008, you're probably seeing north of 150 to 200% return. And that's not including the dividend that they are giving you quarterly or biannually, whatever it might be, right? Do that little by little by little and have a regimented process that you look to invest in, and you'll see that money start to multiply. And the magical component of investing lies within the multiplier. Okay, so if I put $100 in my bank account every 6 months, that's just going to be $600 every 6 months, and I'm going to get pennies on interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I put $100 into the market in 6 months, you know what? That $100 might be $400.
Yeah.
But in a year, when that dividend pays and it starts to reinvest in itself, you're going to see it start to trickle up and trickle up and trickle up. It's the same reason why we need to max out our 401k. Our employers are giving us money, but we're not taking it.
Yes.
Yes, and I agree with that. I've been doing that ever since I started working.
Yeah.
When I was 21 years old. You have to max out those 401ks. I mean, you talked a little bit earlier about investing, and most of us are scared to jump into the stock market.
Yep.
And for me, my dad used to be a day trader years back, and he always told me, like, invest in what you like, because if you like it, then someone else likes it. So you start with that, and trust me, you're gonna make some money.
You know, my wife takes that to heart, and so she invests in handbags.
Well, there is, to your wife's defense, there is a luxury handbag resale market, and there's a whole community on YouTube. I need to get your wife's information. She's right.
I was surprised, but yeah, those things hold their value. But anyway,
certain ones, not all, certain ones. That's another story.
So we've heard so far the importance of having a CPA to understand your money, understand your benefits of taxes, and so forth. You heard the importance of having an advisor to ensure you, to help you with your money you're spending. You're putting it in the right place for you, not as overall, because everyone has their own plan of action. So you need that financial advisor to help you through this process. Yes, they will cost some money for that process, but it costs money to make money. Yes. You can't have the fear of that process. So two great things so far. I want to talk a little bit more now about, when do we start to talk about money to our children?
Can we go back? All right, I definitely want to touch on that, because I have a lot of friends who are business owners. And in our community, if we want to build a community and build generational wealth, we have to be willing to pay our businesses, our Black businesses, what they're worth.
Yes.
Don't go in asking for discounts. I don't want to do business with you if I ask a Hispanic company, give me a quote. They quote $1,000, and I ask a white company and they quote $1,200, and the Black guy quotes $500. Well, I don't know about that $500, because it's not really
right.
It might not be worth it. But if they charge $1,000, then pay them those $1,000. Don't go in asking for a discount, because you get what you pay for. And I have a property my house I'm living in now, and we have a lot of work that's being done. And everybody who I contract with is African American, and they're excellent business owners. So people say, oh, I deal with our people, and I don't get good quality work. I don't have a problem finding them. So if you need some references, let me know.
And vetting, and must mention that she's in South Florida. So if you do need a new one out in South Florida, you can go ahead there. But it's all about references. You need to be, you reference and vet. So you're vetting out these people. Yes, of course, you're going to have the low balls of everyone. You'll have the high players. You got to find what works for you. And that's just by vetting properly. So that's great. But let's dig into when we need to talk to our kids. We're all in the age of kids growing up. We have from 5 down to 1. I mean, amongst the community. So when do we start talking about them? When do we bring out our books and start bringing out pennies and start to understand and teaching them the penny game?
So I'll actually jump in on that real quick. My kids are 3 and 5. The daughter's the youngest one that you just saw there. And I think that the discussion about money these days, especially for this generation, is critical because of the fact that money is not going to be, when you just mentioned pennies, nickels, and dimes, Art, they're not going to know what tangible money looks like.
Right. They have apps for that now.
Yeah. They're not going to know what that. They just want to know, where's the credit card or where's the app.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, they're 3 and 5 years old, and they both know the value of money. As a matter of fact, we just recently started. We started doing little chores around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So we just bought a new house about a month ago, and in the wake of COVID, we don't have a housekeeper. So, kids, you're gonna have to hold your own over here, right? So in light of that, we have them doing chores every week. And they get money for their chores because, again, you don't want to teach them to do anything for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to have them out in the street doing a job yet, but I'm gonna try and teach that mentality internally. And so at the end of each week, we tally what chores have been done. They get a quarter for everything that they do, and they put it into one of 3 buckets, or they split it up into 3 buckets: saving, spending, and giving. Okay. And so the saving, that money is going away for a long time. We're not going to look at that money. The spending is money that we can use towards a toy, or in this case, they want toys or an instrument. And I'm pushing out that drum set as long as possible. And the giving bucket is we are donating our money to help with ongoing protest efforts, right? And so every week they take that money and they know exactly where it goes and they know exactly what it's being used for. 6 months from now, when they get enough money from a toy, then they'll see it in action, right? But for now, they're just learning that this money goes there and it has its place.
Asgar, I think you need to pay them their worth. They should be able to afford that toy before 6 months. You're giving them pennies and dimes. They need to have some dollars.
They got food too.
Right? The room and board is part of that wage. So it's perfect. So now is the time for us to start talking about the things, giving our kids chores, understanding where they're spending for. They're going to buy things in stores, understand how much this costs. Looking at the number, it's not just a toy on a shelf, but this toy will cost you this much out of your savings, or birthday gifts they've gotten. Okay, here's the money you have for your birthday. Now let's separate these things out to these buckets. And do you want to use all of this right now for this gift, or do you want to do something else with it? So that's great. Now, Shanell, I'll give it to you. When do you talk to your parents about financial education? Because just like you're telling your kids now, some of our parents aren't there yet. You have an advantage because you've been there process, but some parents have no idea about what to do with their money, and they're getting to age now of retirement and being able to move forward. And we are their financial pipeline.
Well, I can't really speak to that because my mom, even though she had 6 kids, she started talking to us very early about finances. She opened all of us a bank account as soon as she could. I think we were 15 or something like that at the time. So my mom took very little and did a lot with it. So she always spoke to us about it. So I can't tell her anything. She taught me, you know. I could add a little bit to what Asgar said as to talking to the kids and family. So with finances, I started with my kids. As soon as they started asking for money, then now they opened it up for the discussion. So now we could start talking about money, right? We're going to talk. I talk to them about credit, about the advantages and disadvantages of using credit versus debit, because they see a lot of commercials on TV. So my kids like to ask a lot of questions, and they see that I pay with a card. So they ask, is this a debit card? Is a credit card? So, I explain that to them. Also, I think it's important for families to have goals, goals, financial goals. Maybe we're in a house now, maybe we want to move into a larger house. Maybe, we want to buy or go on a vacation or buy something that everybody could enjoy. So, these are goals that we talk about for now and for the future. And I think it gives the family vision and direction. And then also, I think we have to talk about, and this is where I could talk to my mom about the legacy. So, talk about family history, the past. Maybe you have people in your family who own businesses. Maybe, you have educators in your family. So that's motivation to show what you can be. You talk about the present, and then you talk about the future. You talk to your kids about, what do they want to be when they grow up, and, talk to them and say, well, you have a college savings fund, but you might not want to go to college. So think about what you want to do and how you're going to get there. And I start talking to them about those things at a very young age, as my mom did with me.
One thing, Shanell, that you mentioned, a lot of, I think the plight of Black people in general is that we can't move ahead financially because of the health burdens that we are having to deal with not only our parents, but our extended family, right? And so to the extent that we can control that by having these proactive conversations to make sure that our parents, our extended family, our relatives, to make sure that they are prepared, because age comes for us all, right? So we need to make sure that we have proper health care in place. We need to make sure that we have, if we're looking at going in a home, for instance, did you know that you have to divest yourself of all of your assets 5 years before you consider being eligible for a retirement home if you plan to take advantage of Medicaid?
Wow.
Right? So these are things that we need to kind of educate ourselves on so that we can educate the older generation who probably has no idea, to be honest. I mean, my parents, again, as you mentioned, Shanell, my parents have been the most incredible examples to me throughout my entire life. And they've had conversations with me about finances since I couldn't even remember.
Awesome.
Everything I do in real estate, I model after my mother and father and their acumen, right? So I'm blessed and I'm fortunate. But one of the things that she's mentioned to me time and time again is that they know for sure that they at no point in time will they need to burden us with their well-being, right? And again, we were extremely fortunate that my grandmother, she passed away when she was 95, almost 96, but she was healthy until the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Great.
We didn't have a contingency plan set up in place,
Yes.
right? And I can't tell you how many people I know where all of a sudden their savings are wiped out like this because they have to pay $3,000 a month plus for health care for their aging relative. Right?
I will tell you, I know from experience in my family, because my grandmother is 97, that long-term care is more expensive than having a mortgage.
Yeah.
So that is very, very important. And even at our age, if we accumulate wealth, we're just one illness away from, losing everything that we've accumulated. So you definitely have to kind of diversify everything and know that you're right. Health is very important.
So we're almost out of time for today, but we still have one major topic to discuss, and that's community. And I'm going to read something for you. So I talked about Black Wall Street Massacre in the very beginning, and here's a part of an article that was written. And I'm going to make sure that everyone hears this clearly. The Tulsa Tribune editorial, and I quote directly: "Such a district as Old Nigger Town must never be allowed in Tulsa again." This has stopped a lot of communities across the U.S. from building, and this is just one instance in Tulsa. But we talked earlier about how the dollar and lifespan of the dollar is in one community. The Asian community has 28 days of dollars circulating in their community. The Jewish community has 19 days of the money circulating in there. The Greenwood District had it 56 times before it left the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We now currently only have 6 hours. We need to get our community to rebuild itself and to invest in ourselves. So what is the power and how can we, and we're going to wrap up shortly, so I'll throw this at you quickly, but what are some of the things that we can do, top 3 things we can do in our community from your aspect to help ensure that money flowing circularly into our community before it goes out?
I'll let you touch on that, Asgar. I know you had some good points.
Sure. And again, just a reminder, in the words of Mr. Kenya Barrett, we got here because of slavery. If you haven't seen Black AF, watch the show. I had to put that in there at some point in time.
A lot of people don't like that show. Okay.
I know, but you got to unpack the layers.
I'm not one of them, but I'm just saying.
So, what can we do? First and foremost, right now, right this second, we need to invest in ourselves. Again, a lot of people are anti-Wall Street for a number of reasons, but you have to understand that money makes the world go round, so you've got to work with it because you can't work against it. One United Bank is the largest Black-owned bank in the country. They have $700 million under management. The largest Asian bank, $30 billion under management. The largest owned Hispanic bank, $20 billion under management. So One United Bank is our opportunity to invest in ourselves, and they obviously are way behind, where they could be, relatively speaking, but they are making a difference. One United Bank was the one financial institution that went and has backed the Black Lives Matter movement since 2016. Okay. These are the companies that behind the scenes are making things work for us and for our community, right? So I opened an account with them 3 days ago. I recommend anyone else to do it as well. It's a very quick application online. They do banking, checking, saving, or savings, checking, and CDs, but nothing fancy. But again, it's a way to keep the money into our ecosystem, right? Commit to hiring Black workers and people that look like us and that reflect our ideals. Okay, we see it, and this movement has exploded online. We're on Facebook right now. There are countless groups being formed with thousands and thousands of people there who are sharing their Black-owned businesses. These are not Instagram businesses that are masquerading as a Black business and just putting a face forward. These are the actual people that own the business that are stepping up and saying, hey, I need your support right now, because now more than ever, all of these businesses need our support to stay afloat. So what can we do immediately? Take those small steps, right? The next time you need to go out and purchase something, think twice before you go to Amazon or you go to Target, right? Or Walmart or whatever it might be. If you need something fixed, find the Rolodex and or ask somebody that's worked with a Black professional that you can work with. It's very simple, but it takes a targeted approach, and you have to be dedicated to it.
It does, and it is exactly what we should need. I mean, here I just moved to Atlanta, and the first thing I did was I need to find all the Black businesses in the area, so I can support in the process. But I also
that probably was really hard in Atlanta, right?
Yeah. It's funny because there's so many now. You have so many choices. Where I was in Jersey, that was very hard to do. So you had to drive miles and miles and miles away. But I asked you all, right? I asked you all now to do that. So we're going to put up right now. We're going to put up in a second on the screen for you guys. You see the blackcoalition.org. And you can go there, and there's so many things inside that website that can point you, direct you properly to those areas. So dig into that, see, support yourself, and then also in your community. And I want to bring up a very important fact is that there are programs out there for minorities to help start and build your own business, franchise especially. Many programs, government funded programs, it's out there. So do your research, look what's around you, and ask how you can buy that store from them. Don't continue to give your money to those who don't live in your community and take it and run, go home somewhere else. How can that money go back into you and circle around so that their kids now go to your school, who then pay the taxes for your community, that then make your education better?
Right.
Every dollar counts. And then on top of that, and then I'll let you guys go and wrap this up for us. But on top of that, ownership is important for your community because your vote in that community makes a difference. If you don't own anything in the community you live in, then how can you ask for change or ensure the change to your benefit? So I want to make sure that you guys have time to share your platforms, to share how they can reach out to you guys. So I'll start with Shanell. How can we reach out to you? What is your platform? What is your IG? What can people do to reach out to you, to follow you, to see your see how you succeed in life?
You can reach me on IG at simplyshanell.com, SIMPLYSHANELL
Awesome.
on IG.
There you go. Asgar.
I don't really have much of a online presence in that regard. I just use it as my stress relief. But yeah, I'm on Instagram at NAZZO01. Facebook is everyone can see me on Facebook as well, and LinkedIn. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn so that we can put our professional networks together. If anything else, I'm a connector, and I'm happy to do so whenever the opportunity arises. So, Art, thank you so much for this opportunity here today. I can't tell you how exhausted I am in talking about race over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and more so explaining away, white tears.
Yes.
But I couldn't be more energized at the same time. So because we know that we refuse to return to the status quo and we refuse to accept that we cannot change things for what they are right now, I am incredibly grateful for this platform and this opportunity. So, if we can keep this going, I'm all here for it.
Well, this is not the end of our conversation.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you as well for organizing this because, I'm an accountant. I deal mostly with numbers and people hardly ever like talking to me. So I thought that this was really good that you guys put this together to talk about the finances and how we could help and provide information for people to build generational wealth. I'm also on LinkedIn. I forgot about that, Asgar. Thank you. So you could reach out to me on that platform also if you have any questions. And I do want to say, and I told Art and Mr. Jones this, that I feel that 1 hour is definitely not enough for this. We just scratched the surface, and I would be available, at any time you guys reach out to me to answer additional questions people might have or do a more detailed podcast about finances.
Yes, this is not the end of our conversation for either one of us. I'd like to formally invite both of you to the podcast. I think you need your own session, your own day, because both your knowledge is such wealth in your knowledge, and I want to make sure that we can share this with our cohorts and our community. So we will reach out to you. We will invite you on and get you guys in the queue. I love talking finance. I love more about this, and thank you again for coming to the 13th floor. Where the furniture isn't the best, but the views are amazing. And I'll toss it back to the team. Man, amazing. That was awesome.
Hey, all right, what's happening, baby?
Yeah.
That was amazing. Thank you, Shanell and Asgar, for hanging out with us on the 13th floor, man. I can't wait to get y'all on the podcast. I mean, y'all had a good hour, though. Probably covered everything we would cover on a podcast, but all
We
good.
we touched the surface. We just got to the top of the lid. That cup is so
Listen,
full.
I'm typing the entire time, like, yep, we gonna hit this, yep, we gonna hit that, yep, we coming back here. So yeah, just great time, man, great time.
Man, fellas, we did it. We did it, fellas.
Did it in less than a week.
Yo, my heart is so full right now. You guys don't understand.
Hey, real quick.
This is great.
I want to give you your moment to talk, BJ, but it was funny because I had a conversation one day with another fellow Hurricane alum, Brian Henderson, and he was like, yeah, you could probably do something like that. And I told him to get back to him. The very next day, BJ starts talking about this. And I'm like, yes, let's do it. So we want to give a shout out to Brian Henderson. And I know he just jumped on a little while ago. He's been in and out, but we definitely want to recognize Brian because he helped get us a little bit organized, gave us some ideas. So we just want to shout you out, King. And definitely appreciate you for your guidance and direction. So if anybody has any event that you want to get planned and get straight, definitely reach out to Brian Henderson, who can help you out, and we'll drop his information shortly.
Most definitely.
BJ, go ahead, man. Get your moment, man.
Yeah, go ahead and get your moment.
I want everybody else to go.
Well, let me shout out the guests, man. Let me shout out the guests: Renee Callen, Renee J.N. We got Denitra that was on with us, Keisha Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We had Gina, Trish. Who else? Scrolling up. Laleen, I'm not gonna butcher your last name, but you know who you are.
Babineau.
All right, Babineau. Laleen. We got Steph.
La.
Who is this?
Brian
Turner.
Hadaya. Yeah. Yep.
Hadaya
Turner. Lynn Williams, Jones, Gant.
Mama Jones.
That's Mama.
Oh, that's Mama Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Got
our biggest supporter.
Mama Jones, man.
Yes, one of our biggest listeners.
Exactly. Dr. Terry Ann Bennett, all of our guests, man.
Hey, man, shout out to, my in-laws are always in the background lurking on the 13th floor. So shout out to Rennie, shout out to Wildred. I see you all out there. Appreciate you.
Yeah, shout out to those in the watch parties. I got a couple people here who are coming in and out of the watch party and giving a straight shout out to Corinne, Kara, Christine. Man, we had Todd, Michelle. I mean, the watch party was crazy over here on Facebook. So it was pretty cool too to have that all going.
Listen, there were multiple watch parties going. Shout out to Aston. Shout out to Wendy Ann Dixon. So much going on, and our day is not over, fellas.
Yeah, we got the UN Black Alumni Society event tonight, man. Me and Coach K gonna get on there and talk some things and hang out with the UM community. I wish it could have been in person, man. I miss Miami so much.
I wish it had been in person too. Not too late to register for that. We'll drop that registration link on the bottom again. But fellas, wow, amazing. I'm like, even just watching you guys, I was just like, you know what, man, like 4 years ago, what we're doing now,
it's amazing.
It's crazy. So they said BJ gonna cry in the car. I want him to go ahead and cry now. So I'm gonna turn it over to BJ.
You don't get an hour, man.
I'm not. Again, one idea was confirmed by all the thoughts and things that were going around in the universe already. We just had to make it happen and push to get it done. Again, Brian Henderson, love you, brother. The time we spent on the phone, just to bounce ideas back and forth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just a start. We have been kind of reorganizing, thinking about the podcast. We've been on the air for now over 3 years now. This is episode 155. So you got 154 episodes to go back and listen to. Back when we were just recording audio only, they transferred into the video about 30 something. So we've grown a lot.
We live this time, baby.
This is the first live podcast we've done. We've recorded all together in one place, but this is the first live we've done. But our platform here on out, and we've all talked about it, we need to be that voice, be that sounding board for other people to come on and do just like we did today. This is the opportunity that we don't take lightly. And there's been many times we've had to pivot over the years and looking at each other like, are we going to continue this or not? And I'm so glad, brothers, that we never wavered in that final moment, right?
Yep.
Because
many men have entered, few men have stayed.
Yo, that right there were many times where we were about to like walk away from this. Today is proof of why we need to keep on doing what we're doing. Shout out to Annette Vega before I forget. She reached out to me early in the week before when we first started publishing the flyer that the Black Medical Students Association, and forgive me, I totally forget what the acronym is right now. It's so far in my mind. But the Black student, they were gonna do a Juneteenth. She said, you know what, you guys have putting on an awesome show. We're gonna defer our program and tune everybody in. She started spreading the word around the Med campus down here at UM, and then other student organizations have just jumped on board. So any organization, any person affiliated with UM right now, we love you. We know that UM is always family, and anything we can do, please reach out to us. I know Brett's going to give us a platform a little bit later on where you can pick up at how to contact us as well. But we want to use our platform to expose and promote everything that's going on out there. We want to use the platform to be a pillar, a beacon. This is just the beginning. What we got going on later tonight with the Black Alumni Society, Carol and Brett are going to be leading the discussion there. So 13th floor is going to be present from here on out. You might as well get used to us. Go on and follow us. Go on and like us on every social media page. And get used to hearing that name and get used to seeing us on the forefront of everything that's going on. This is just the first stepping stone. Brothers, I love you. We got a challenge and we got to keep on going. And everybody who's on today, you're a panelist today, but you're family. Like I'm sitting here the whole time listening to Camille and Terry Ann, Vivian, Dre, Dewberry. We got Asgar and Shanell. We go back to Nicole, and I'm just sitting here like, this is why we're so prideful of going to the U. Again, the U gets its accolades for many different reasons, depending on you're in the sports fame, you're in the medical field, whatever the case may be. But each individual one of us makes up the legacy that we all know and cherish. So when we sit here and talk about our love for the U, I mean, we talk about the time and people just don't understand. I didn't just go to the U. The U is a part of me.
Yeah.
It will forever be that way. Again, 13th floor, we got a lot to do. We got a challenge ahead of us. I'm so grateful to everybody who has taken a step out today and just came on to share it. We have so much talent in this world that we have to expose it and let people know this is and Carol, you said it best. This is what happens when we breathe. And you said that earlier, and it didn't click until I'm sitting here listening to everybody. Part of the problem I feel is that people are scared of this when we breathe. There's too many people that are scared that this is just excellence, like human being excellence, right? It just happens to be all of African descent. We have a lot to do. I'm done. Before I go on a rant, because I will keep on going forever. Y'all know me when I get my emotions, I do it.
We ain't got nothing but time, man.
And stop crying, man.
Church.
Stop crying because your tears are falling on my face in my house.
Oh man, yes. Make sure I have to say it, man. Carol, when we breathe, that was another lightning in the bottle moment, man. We're gonna carry that with us, man. We got to trademark that thing now. But this is what it's about right now, man. This is what it's been about for us. BJ gave y'all the history, but the action versus inaction, like that's it. It's one or the other, and we find ourselves on that side of action. And this is just one way we've done. We were able to create something in a short amount of time that has a long-lasting impact. And I'm just really looking forward to tonight, carrying that torch forward with the Black Alumni Society. We dropped the link for everybody to register to come on because I think it's going to be a great event.
Yep. You don't have to be alumni to join.
You don't have to be. You can be from that sorry school that's a few hours north from us if you want to be involved. But it's going to be a great conversation. I'm really excited to get there and talk, some Juneteenth stuff and some, all Black stuff with my people. So yeah, man, we just got to keep pushing, keep going forward.
Man, I want to shout out everybody, all the non UN members who tuned in, because I know we've been very passionate about the U today. It's definitely the glue that binds us, but definitely want to make sure we shout out everybody who is not a U family member, but has been able to tune in and grab some of this awesome information and feel some of this energy we giving on the 13th floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, man. Continue to follow us at 13th floor, please. All social media handles 13thfloor@gmail.com if you want to get connected with us. YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play. We are everywhere. 155 episodes in. And if you want if you wanted a history lesson, just go back to number 1 and watch the growth from there to today. I mean, it is truly amazing. The views are truly amazing. The furniture hasn't always been the best. Lord knows we done moved some pieces around this thing, but the core is strong. The foundation is strong, and that doesn't mean that anything that has come and gone is not still welcome. You know, we always welcome our brothers on the show, anybody on the show to have a conversation. It's just an open space, open dialogue. Yeah, I feel so good, man. This is great Juneteenth, man.
There were a few questions that were posed throughout the thing. What we plan on doing is giving those questions to the individual presenters, let them respond. We'll push out the responses to the masses on all social media platforms in the upcoming days as well. So we just make sure we didn't negate your questions. We just knew if we got in the Q&A session, we would never get done, because the people want to know what these folks know. And they know a lot, and they know all the details that we need to get up on. So again, we will get those out and get those back to everybody ASAP.
Absolutely. And I mean, that everything is, coming back to the podcast. I mean, we got a platform that we're going to be using. So all of our guests, we'll get the extended versions, where we need them.
All right, fellas, let's close this out. We're starting to drop. And people got things to do, and we need to get rested up and ready for this celebration.
They got nothing to do. They need to stay tuned in. Even though we about to go ahead and end this portion of the show, I'm gonna go ahead and see how long they let me slide before they kick us off of Facebook and all social media platforms. Go ahead and hit this Freedom Mix. Once again, though, I want to thank everybody who tuned in, especially our guests. Most importantly, though, again, the fellas, like they said, it's been a long road. We put a lot of work into carving out what we do, and it's been awesome watching our growth. And it's just nothing but excitement to see what we're finally going to be able to do.
Terry Ann is still around, so I know if we want to bring it back off of a minute. I don't know if we have. I know we're gonna get to your mix to it as well, Ian. But I know she stuck around. If anybody had any direct questions, she's willing to do that. So I say if we could give it like 5 minutes, bring her back on.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And if anybody else has the bounce, I understand. But I want to do that. She's been on sitting in the queue for this entire time. So Terry, you're live now. Just make sure you know we see you.
Dr. Ben, what's happening?
No, I just want to say, if anyone does have any questions, they can reach out to me directly. Carol and BJ have all my contact. I'm also reachable on Instagram at Dr. Bennett MFM, which is also my Twitter handle. So definitely, if anyone has any direct questions or want to speak to me one-on-one, I'm available. You guys are family, so it's all love.
Absolutely. We did get one question about something that I'm going to have a very, very hard time announcing.
That's going to be a complicated. I know that question. Tell that person to call me. Yeah, just pass them my phone number. We'll chat.
There it is. There it is.
Thank you guys so much. Seriously, it was amazing. It was amazing.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, definitely. Thank you.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you.
Again, shout out to Audie. I see Renee Callen on there. Mama Renee, we love you. I talked to Dr. Moore earlier in the week. He was supposed to tune in at some point in time. I didn't see him comment, but he said he was going to try to.
He did somewhere. I think
I must have missed it.
I think he popped on my live feed.
Okay. So Dr. Moore was out there again. Nanette Vega down in the med school again. This is family, y'all.
Awesome.
All right. These are our family. So again, we just appreciate y'all, love y'all, and then again, like anyway, we're gonna be around for a minute. And Ian, you're gonna do your thing. So again, 7 o'clock tonight. Make sure you register. Let me put the information back up. Yep. Because you can't get in unless you register.
We'll shoot it out. Make sure we get it out on all our platforms for everybody to be able to register. Again, follow us at 13th Floor, please, on all social media platforms. 13thfloor@gmail.com if you need to get connected. YouTube, Vimeo, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. Each and every week, man, we dropping something on Friday. So that's it, man. Let's wrap this thing up on the 13th floor, fellas. Appreciate y'all, man.
Y'all know exactly what it is.
Where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views, they are amazing.
It's a